Welcome along to another week and weekend of RPL recaps. This week, we have a lot to talk about. I'm Ryan Searles, he'll be RSF1 Invade, and we have 3 races to talk about since F2 is canceled. We'll tell you why later on. But we had a first-time Tier 3 winner. We had a new title leader take over in Tier 2 after winning in Zandvoort. And we also had the return to glory in F1 for Skither. But we start the weekend and start the recap talking about the McLaren incident. Jack and TB on lap 17 of the Grand Prix in Singapore collided. Aggression was happening with both McLaren drivers. Very quickly after the pit stops, they had a 2-second lead. Both collided. The question we asked today is, do you reason with Jack's defense more on TB, or do you reason with TB's aggression on Jack more? Invade, your thoughts.
My thoughts is I actually agree with TB. I understand his aggression. Obviously, he said in the driver's chat that obviously he's gonna the constructors basically wrapped up, and him and Jack, it's a straight brawl for that drivers championship, and he needs to win these races, so I can understand his aggression. I also can see Jack's point of view as well, but I agree more with TV. Over to you.
Yeah, I think at the same time, TB has more to fight for here. Jack is the one trying to defend from this championship lead. He's got, what, a 16-point buffer entering Singapore during the night? TB's got a lot of lost ground to make up, and TB was continuing a really long consecutive point streak. The situation that he was in was, I got put behind Jack on the track. I had to get by him, and they were both fighting, and TB also has a lot more of a points buffer to gain. I don't know if all these tracks are going to suit TB compared to Jack. Jack has already had, if he keeps this podium, 11 podiums to his name this season. That's already the same amount as he had last season. So Jack's been on a lot of consistency, and TB's been on a lot of consistency, but I understand why the team principal Titan, the co-TP Titan on comms was mad that night. It made no sense to collide when you were 2 seconds in lead and had really at that point no chance to race like that until later on. The buffer they had made no sense. At least that at that point made no sense. Gotta wait till later on to race it out, especially with the gap they had over third place. If this was lap 30, I get it, Our second controversy over the weekend surrounded Tier 2 Invade.
Yes, the Shorts and Mintokki incident that happened. Some people could say Shorts is at fault. Some people say Mintokki is at fault. We also want to talk about who we both think is at fault, and how it actually decided the victory in that Tier 2 race.
Yeah, so I think this incident's very interesting, because if you look at the Leo Lund and Florian Vanzelter incident in Monza, Leo was deemed at fault because if you're the car behind attacking into the corner and you're making a move and your car is not ahead of the driver's cockpit, and you could kind of see it, I guess, as I rotate the angle on the point of view of the stream now, I guess you could say you don't deserve the space at that point. And that was argued many, many times. We had an incident in Tier 1 just like that, Jack and TB, where a move was made and, there was a car not alongside. We'll see what the verdict is there. We also had Reese and TB have an incident in Miami that was a bit controversial in itself. So I don't agree on the fact that there was no penalty given at all. I think Shorts should have been penalized right there. And, controversial, I'll say this. A lot of people thought Mintokki was at fault too. Shorts was at fault. A very interesting way of putting blame. And I'll say this controversially to end off my point. I know a lot of people favor Mintokki because she is probably our best woman driver in the league. I'm just going to say that straight up. But what I will say, though, is she was a slower car. Schwartz got desperate. The car behind Schwartz was gaining, and obviously this incident allowed Night Owl to get to him quicker, and he ultimately won the race. Simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. It's for that incident. Obviously, it was originally deemed Mintokki's fault. Obviously, that appeal got overturned, and there was no penalty given to either one. I believe
like
that
that.
Schwartz should have been penalised for the fact that he showed desperation. He was very impatient with the overtake. There wasn't really much of an attempt to not make contact. I believe Mintokki could have left a little bit more space, but I can see why they have deemed that incident as a NFA. And overall, Schwartz's impatience cost him the win, and Night Owl capitalized because of Schwartz doing that.
Definitely a controversial incident. I just hate how that ended for both of them. I mean, Schwartz a home race, Mintokki seriously unlucky. And you know what? That should have been a penalty. I don't know, but I think controversially, as we get to our tier 3 race, which we should talk about in a moment, I think that not being a penalty is more controversial and maybe more wrong than Miley's penalty that he got. So if you missed the tier 3 race, SV won in the stewards room, his first Monaco win. He got the win after Miley 41 was penalized in the stewards room for an incident where he reset the track. It was automatic from the game, it looks to be, as he's shown he was not an AI to do that. But that's a setting the host keeps on. But regardless, we'll get out of that. He crossed the pit lane exit when that happened, and he got penalized. It gave SV his first RPL win in Monaco. Invade, this is your driver. What does this do to his RPL career? Especially your first win coming at Monaco.
Obviously, this gives SV a lot more confidence. It's going to help us build in the constructors. It's also going to put SV on team's radar. Like, he's definitely a changed driver since he was last in RPL before he got banned. It just shows the improvement and maturity that's actually came into SV, and to have his first win in Monaco is very impressive, and he's definitely on radars for teams for next season in Tier 2.
I think the big thing for SV here is we cannot forget about his starting stint in Tier 2 at the end of last game. Also, this includes preseason when I reveal this stat. He only finished one of his first 11 starts. That was his debut race in Mexico. But the interesting thing about SV with that is he was basically a nobody. After that, he got a lot of incidents, as you said, and track limits was a big factor on him as part of that race manipulation in Austria. He got into that incident with George, which got him part of that ban. His closest to a win before that Monza race in Season 2 of Tier 3 was in Singapore when he had a decent result. That Monza race, without that safety car, he has a podium easily. He not only now is his first podium, but he has that first win that he's been looking for, and I think it's quite the place to do it around too.
Definitely, it's very impressive from SV.
It's not the place you would expect a first career win to come from.
Especially from a driver like SV who has the past of not finishing around one of the most trickiest tracks.
Speaking of the most trickiest tracks, let's bring you to mail time. These are 3 questions we received from drivers and others around the league that we want to talk about. And our first one comes from Nevsky's performance in Tier 3. You gotta wonder, is this a sign of things to come for the Montenegro driver? What I wonder is that, can this performance continue? Well, not only do I wonder if this performance can continue, I wonder, does he deserve that McLaren once again? Finally on raw pace, he's there, and he needs to do this more consistently. The fact he was close to a podium in Monaco is crazy. But Invade, is this a one-off? Is it not? I don't know, but he said he fixed some settings that has helped him get to this point. Is this a valid thing to be asking, though?
on Neski, I believe there's definitely been a change from last season. He seemed a lot more quicker. It's the consistency in handling the pressure that
Agreed.
questions him actually being in a McLaren. At the moment, he's doing very well in the Alpine. He's making an argument to be back in that McLaren, but right now I believe he's in the best situation that he can be in that Alpine. He's going to be, if he can start handling the pressure a bit more consistency, keeping the raw pace week in, week out, he will definitely be a top driver for Tier 3 and definitely for having a top car like McLaren.
I think this definitely changes the complexion of things, though, because although McLaren have not won yet, he definitely can be a distraction to the championship contenders right now, such as maybe yourself at some point. Also, Mally 41, beating it could be a contender. Both McLarens haven't won yet, but they've got strong drivers, and Neski could be maybe that third guy waiting there. Remember the Tier 2 races he did Invade? He was not far off of good finishes. I think he got 1 P4, but that's what happens when the pressure's off you. And right now, those settings have really worked out for him. I'm happy for him, actually. He deserves it. So,
yeah,
we want to talk about something else in terms of performances. We talked about one high, now we got to talk about one low. The performance from a certain driver recently has not been up to par, and you have to wonder why. It's HSR Gecko, and Gecko had that race in Baku where he was on the podium until the stewards report. But before that, he had the race in Monza, where I believe he didn't even finish well at all. I'm just going to quickly check. Monza, he finished down in 12th. Netherlands, he made 5 pit stops, finished outside the points. He had a terrible day there, and he didn't race in Spa. But the races from Gecko recently have not been his usual self. I just have to wonder, Invade, why?
I believe these performances are being like this now because before he actually had something to prove, he had to prove that he should be the one in that Red Bull. Now that he's actually got the Red Bull, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be under threat by any driver, he's underperforming a bit more. He's like taking it a bit more easier other than pushing. Because of that, he's making silly mistakes and getting into incidents that are costing him great results for him and the team. He needs to get back onto the form that he started the season on.
His pace is clearly there, but he's not got the consistency. I mean, he came second in that front row start on Red Bull's 100th pole, but also not only did he come second in that outing, but he was the last driver to win from pole this season and in general for RPL F1. So I want to see him return to that form, but I feel like if he doesn't, there's definitely a temptation Red Bull might be having for Leo to catch up in the championship by putting him in the Red Bull. 60-something points back into Singapore, and he beat Jack. He brought his gap down, but obviously TB's gap was not brought down. So Red Bull have some interesting choices to make. I don't get it. I think your point is very valid. It's concerning. It's just not what you want to see from somebody for sure, and especially Gecko, who is similar to a driver we're about to start talking about again, Reese Dainty. Yeah, Reese Dainty, Night Owl, they're the Tier 2 title contenders. And you have to wonder, who do you give the upper edge to in this title fight? Night Owl's won the last 2 races. Reese Dainty got his first pole in quite a while, just last week. So clearly the qualifying pace maybe is back. I don't know, it's tough to tell. But Reese won the first race. There are only 2 winners this season, and they've pulled away from the front of in the front of the field, away from the others by quite a hefty margin. Like I said, you just have to wonder, who do you give the edge to here? And Invade, who do you give the edge to here between these 2 close drivers who are really on it?
I believe the edge obviously goes to the championship leader, Night Owl. He's got the point advantage over him, and I feel has been a bit more consistent. His quality pace has been off this season, but his race pace I feel has been much more better than Reese's. Reese has had him in qualifying, sure, but the points are scored in the race, and I feel like Night Owl has the edge because of his consistency and just out and out raw pace. Because some could argue he is the quickest in the division.
I think that in this situation, I'm going to disagree with you for the sake of disagreeing, but I'll tell you why, and I'll give you an example. So Reese Dainty ended up getting the Season 9 F1 championship, got a prior Tier 2 championship, but George didn't have a prior Tier 2 championship when he was racing Redfire in that title battle. He had to come from behind, but you know what Redfire didn't have that George did? Championship pressure. And that's what Reese Dainty has had. Night Owl has not had this yet. So I feel like, although both are on great form right now, I'd say they're level on pace and everything else. Consistency, momentum. You'd give the Night Owl race pace. You give the maybe Reese, maybe Night Owl. I don't know. But I give Reese Dainty the edge just because he has the experience of being in a title fight in RPL. Night Owl does not. I mean, I think they're both really good contenders. I don't see anyone getting to any of them this season. Similar to, George, they actually might win the same amount of races he did over the last 2 seasons of Tier 2. That might be split between both of these guys. It's crazy to think about Invade. It really is. I don't know. It's so tough. It's so tough. Either way,
Yeah.
we're gonna tell you about something brand new for next season that was announced not too long ago. We have new academy changes for next game in RPL. Yes, you're hearing this right. New academy changes. So what do we have then, you're wondering? Well, currently our academies for F1 24 and Season 12 of F1, as well as our other tiers, have Red Bull paired with VCarb only, Ferrari with Ferrari with Sauber and Haas in that academy, McLaren / Alpine Academy, only those 2 cars, Mercedes, Aston, and Williams, those 3 cars together. Well, next game and next season in RPL, we'll be changing it down to 3 academies, but we'll be giving one more management role to somebody in each academy. With that being said, here's your changes. Red Bull Academy bring over Aston Martin from Mercedes. Mercedes Academy bring over the 2 McLaren Alpine Academy cars, McLaren and Alpine. So they'll have Mercedes, Alpine, Williams, and McLaren. Ferrari remain the same, and assuming Cadillac were to come over a season early, or they stay the same with 26 here with everything, Cadillac would join them. So Invade, your academy stays the same, the others do not. And this does bring a couple of questions up to this. Obviously, with Netsky, does he go over to some sort of management role at Mercedes? Skither, does he go over to some management role at Red Bull because he's got management roles technically for F2's sake at Mercedes? This is going to raise a lot of questions, and same thing for Titan Ironwolf's role as well. He's floated around in a lot of places, but for the sake of the academies here, this is big news. I mean, you knew about this before me, but this is big news. This is big news for next game.
Definitely will be big news. Obviously, I find the part where Mercedes actually have 4 cars and they have 2 potential top cars in their academy, that's very big for them, saying that they've had probably one of the most equal academies this season, but also maybe one of the worst. Obviously, it's interesting that Aston Martin have gone over to join Red Bull as well. But the most interesting part about it all is the fact that we can now have 4 people in management roles. So that gives people opportunities that have never actually had a role like that before.
Alex Norris, Netsky.
Yeah,
they now do have one.
Into them.
Yeah, they now have one. I think that's going to be the big thing I'm looking forward to. You talked about the different changes. Obviously, with the examples mentioned, McLaren have Cryptic and Florian because there's no McLaren Alpine Academy next game. They can opt out of their contracts. Skither going over to new academy. Part of Aston Martin, same with Ding. They can opt out of contracts. I mean, I find that interesting, but you know what I find more interesting, Invade? Our current TPs for next season. You have Egg at Red Bull, you at Ferrari, and Owen at Mercedes. Obviously, Neski would have been the team principal at McLaren/Alpine Academy, but because he's out of a job basically next season, so is Jack already. He's moving to Ferrari. Same with TB, and Titan obviously won't have a management job either as of the current moment. I wonder who will occupy those roles. I mean, the admin team made it very clear they want someone new. You mentioned as well, you gave Alex Norris that chance. Mintokki returned to that chance as well, and taking Ferrari out of this. You have Mercedes, who had given Lennon the chance before he moved over to Ferrari, and he had a chance previously, but it only lasted a very short amount of time. Red Bull have Cal there now, and McLaren/Alpine Academy have Netsky. So I really wonder, with this fourth management role in play, with academies changing, who's going to go over where and who's going to actually be in control of things? Even if it's not the team principal role, who could be the next one to take it? That's what I find interesting with this.
Definitely.
So, time for our lightning round to tell you what's changing here in RPL, and not only changing, but also some of our headlines throughout the week. Let's get started with it. There is no new points system for next game. Georgia Williams rumored this on stream recently. That's not going to happen. Invade, your thoughts?
I think it's a good thing that doesn't happen, because the point system right now is completely fine.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Invade?
Exactly. Obviously, there's going to driver bans are now going to be announced in the driver contracts, make it a bit more clear. What's your opinion?
More clarity, the better. If drivers get promoted a tier, it makes the whole public know instead of just TPs. Titan is missing round 15, 17, and 19 on comms. This might allow some drivers we've not maybe seen co-com a race. Invade, what are you thinking?
Yeah, drivers like Polish, who's done comms previously, Faded, who's done tier 2, myself, Zakaria could all get chances to fill in tier 1 while Titan's missing. We also have the tier 2 Netherlands poll close to tier 1 times.
Yeah, the one thing I think about that is we have to be aware of the fact that compared to last season, Tier 2 is closer to Tier 1 this time rather than Tier 3 being closer to Tier 2. So I don't think we can panic too much on moving people up right away. I don't think that's fair. Gagi, he got banned recently, and Owen's trying to get him back, supposedly, according to some rumors. Invade, do you think that's going to happen?
No, it seemed quite firm that George and Jack are against letting Gagi back after what happened.
Reasonably so. Invade.
Tier 2
Yeah, tier 2
will have the 200th race this weekend.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't Miami. Probably not the circuit to have it, but it's good to return to a track we've not been to in a while. And Tier 2, even when they had F1.5, has had a lot of history. So, historic weekend. Same with Tier 3, which we had their closest winning margin. It took over the one that Alex and Fusion had in Baku. Your thoughts?
That's quite impressive, saying that the Alex and Fusion one was very close. So congratulations to SV and who I can't remember who else was second to get that record. Timbed, SV and Timbed to get that record. F2 was cancelled this week as well.
Yeah, it's a shame, especially because F2's kind of been back on the rise a little bit, and we don't have a race this week, our third canceled race. You hate to see that. But what you do love to see, especially for yourself, Ferrari swept the weekend. Invade, who do you think is going to be the next team to sweep the weekend in RPL, if there's anyone?
Ferrari Academy to sweep it again.
You know what? I think McLaren have a good chance. I think McLaren actually have a good chance if anyone else is going to do it now.
Yeah, if another team was to do it, it would be McLaren, because they have the best car and strong drivers.
Hey, that was cool to see. You know, I'm a part of Ferrari now, but I'm happy to see one team actually have success throughout the course of one single weekend. So fair play. I hope others can join Ferrari in doing that. So far in 2025, and speaking of 2025, we have more racing to continue in the month of February. in the year of 2025 for RPL, and also this upcoming weekend we have Tier 3 in Monza, Tier 2 in Miami, their 200th race, F1 in Austin, Texas, F2 in Silverstone. Together said Britain's a fan favorite, so maybe we'll get a race going there this week. Hopefully we do. Ryan, Invade, we're both signing off. Have a good one, folks. We hope you enjoyed another weekend of recapping RPL. We'll see you next time.
Bye.